Though he's not very handsome to look at, he's shaggy and eats like a hog, and he's always killing my chickens, that dirty old egg-sucking dog.
If you listen to WSBA in the 1980s and 90s and even into the early part of 2000, that song was the only one that ever got played on one show, and it was Sports Talk with Curt Hart. He was host of Sports Talk here, one of the most popular sports shows in central Pennsylvania, and he is joining us this morning here on our WSBA Diamond Anniversary Flashback. Curt Hart, and great to have you back on, partner. It's wonderful to hear Egg Sucking Dog again. I haven't heard it since you last played it.
Well, it's been a while, Gary. Johnny Cash did that in the 1950s, and it was a hit.
How did you ever latch on to that song? Because that became kind of one of your monikers. You had a number of them, but that was a moniker that you used on the show on a regular basis, and there would be people who would call in and say, please play Egg Sucking Dog, right?
Frankly, I do not know to this day how I stumbled upon that song. It was some Johnny Cash LPs or CDs at the time that I was going through and did not realize he wrote that song. Of course, he wrote about 1,500 or more, and I was laughing my head off when I first played it.
Well, it's great to have you in this morning, and lots of great memories about Sports Talk, and you were here at WSBA. I think you did Sports Talk, if I'm not mistaken, for like 16 years. Am I correct on that?
It was about that. I was at WSBA a total of about 18-plus years there, and the show was quite popular. It was the only game in town, Gary. We did it all.
Yep, it was so much fun to listen to, and later on fun to be part of it with you for a couple of years there. And it just, people would tune in, and we were at all different times. We moved around at different time slots, but I think that it gave people a chance to call in and talk sports. And, of course, there were a lot of personalities that developed out of that as well from some of the people that called in on a regular basis. And by the way, people are welcome to call in today too, and say hello to Curt, 1-800-357-0910. When Sports Talk really got started, I know they tried a couple different people, but when you got it, it was kind of like ham and eggs coming together. Talk a little bit about that.
Well, when it started out, I don't think there was any direction those first couple of years when other people had it. I don't think they were focusing on getting the main sports people on, i.e. those people from Baltimore Orioles baseball and even key players from the Phillies, because the station's set right there between two territories, really, Orioles and Phillies country. And then I think the key players out of Penn State, they weren't focusing on those. And I tried to focus on getting maybe a writer or two or even a fellow commentator on as well, to lend some credence, to give some information inside the stories of the day, if you will.
What made the show so good? It was number one in Pennsylvania in central Pennsylvania here for a long time. What made it so good?
I think it was the personalities of the people calling and the interaction. I felt my job was just to relay the information and comment on that as such. And naturally, you're going to have people, on one side or the other. We call them the Penn State Andes. We
Right.
were a Penn State station, and I was a big Penn State fan, and still am to this day, and still follow Penn State football. And what they've done under James Franklin here these last 5-6 years, I think, has been remarkable. And I think that's what you have to do on a successful show. And I carried that on here with a syndicated show in Memphis.
Well, I want to talk about that, too, a little bit, but we've got some people who want to call in and say hello this morning, and it wouldn't be a Curt Hart interview if we didn't take some callers. So let's go to Steve in York. Steve, you're first up with Curt Hart. Good morning, Steve. How are you?
Hey, I'm doing great. How about you guys?
I'm doing pretty well. I can't speak for my partner here. How you doing, partner?
I'm doing fine.
Hey, I had to call, and the first thing I was going to talk about was the egg-sucking dog. Always remember that. He'd get upset with somebody in sports or somebody doing something, and he'd be an egg-sucking dog.
That was kind of a bailout a lot of times, too, wasn't it, Curt? I mean, someone would kind of get you irate, and all of a sudden that would be the answer, and it kind of just added a lot of levity to the situation as well.
Well, there were a few that did call that had no logic whatsoever about as much water in a fishnet, if you will. And those were the Penn State Annies, I might add. I missed Michigan Mac. He passed on
yes.
a few years ago. Great guy. And sometimes people thought I paid him. I did not, to this day. I want to clarify that. I did not pay Michigan Mac.
Yeah, Michigan Mac was a University of Michigan fan and loved to just kind of tweak the Penn State people, and many a great argument there. Go ahead, Steve.
Yeah, also I'd like to congratulate him on his, I think it was 48th anniversary, wasn't it, Curt?
It was 45 on Sunday, January the 8th. 45.
All righty.
All right, Steve. Thanks for calling and remembering, man. Appreciate it. Let me get Gary in York. Gary, you're next up with Curt Hart. Good morning, Gary. How are you?
Fine, yourself?
Doing well, thanks.
Hey, Curt.
Yes.
Mr. Celtic.
How are you, man?
You remember Mr. Celtic?
Yes, I do.
We go back a long time. We've had great discussions with you and, of course, Gary and myself about the greatest basketball player of all time, and it was the French hick from Indiana. And
Larry Bird.
We always had a discussion that, and I remember Gary saying, "No, it's Michael Jordan."
It's Michael Jordan. Yeah.
Yep. We had a great time.
Yeah.
Lots of fun. And
well, I'll be honest with you now. It's still Michael Jordan, contrary to what LeBron James thinks.
That's exactly right.
Well, I always said this: if you go by championships, okay, Michael has 6, but if you want to go by championships, Bill Russell has 11.
Bill Russell does have 11, and the Celtics won 5 straight NBA titles at one time.
That is right, but he's not considered the greatest. So
yeah.
that's a little misleading, I think.
Well, but isn't that one of the things that made for great discussions, Gary? And everybody came in with their perspective, and it's a guy thing, and that's what I think Curt was able to tap on. Gary, thanks so much for your call, man. Good remembering. Curt, I want to come back and talk about that because you tapped in on something that every guy does. I mean, you talk about people at the water cooler. Well, what goes along every day with this more than sports? And we want to come back and talk a little bit more about that. But I want you to do a little remembering here as we head on out to break, because there was another side of you, too, that a lot of people knew about at that time. And it wasn't just about sports talk. It was about sports broadcasting. Listen in.
Lau for 3, right side. Bullseye, a trifecta. This is an unbelievable run right now for the Irish.
10-0 to start the second half as Lau comes out and lights up a 3.
29-24 Irish, 5.5 on the clock, third quarter. Dodson to Moran. Moran far left side, picked up by Roberts. Driving to the hoop, didn't do any good. Boy, he penetrated in there. Good bucket.
Okay, Moran is a tough little point guard, only a sophomore, 60 points in the game.
Down low into Kovacs. The Irish tried to break the press and get the layup and drew the personal foul on Ed Glenecki.
News Radio 910 WSBA.
But Tim Ebersole did come across to make that play with the official. In the right corner, bullseye for Dave Robertson. It's a 1-point York High lead.
A set play there, and Robertson with his second 3 of the night. He's got 8 points in the game. York High by 1. 1 minute to go in the first half.
27-26 York High Bearcats. Roscoe, long range. He buried that on the right side for 3.
Roscoe stepped out there and said, we could do
well,
that too.
That's where I first met Curt Hart. Welcome back to WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton, our WSBA Diamond Anniversary flashback interview. I guess it was about, 1989 that you and I first hooked up for basketball, and one of the most enjoyable experiences I ever had, Curt, and still to this day I remember it fondly.
Well, those were some great games we did. There's no question about that. And, yes, it was in the late 80s, and we always had some good matchups when we programmed those. Really did.
I remember we were out doing games like 2, 3, 4 times a week many times. It was a lot of fun, and every night was different. But the bullseye was another of your monikers when it came to, knocking it down, first for a 2 and then later on for a 3.
Yes, I always enjoyed that. Of course, I grew up on basketball in the state of Kentucky, did cover games there, and also the state of Indiana as well, which have the largest high school gyms in America. And college basketball was great in both those states, obviously, and that was my route.
One of the things that was really interesting, and I've done, color with a lot of people, but one of the things that you always did, it was always concise. You knew exactly where you were going, and it was kind of like a piece of music. You would hit a piece, I'd come back, and I kind of knew where to take it and then throw it right back at you because you were always right there. And I don't think we ever had to step on each other very often.
No, not at all. I think we read each other, knew each other's pace and flow very well, and that's a key. And keep in mind, radio play-by-play is vastly different from television, and that's why I always liked radio, enjoyed it so much more.
Well, I always enjoyed the chance with radio. I always thought, you had to paint the whole picture, whereas on television, you're kind of telling people what they're seeing within what they're seeing, and that was, I think, the big difference, at least as far as I saw. Your thoughts about that?
Well, it is, and I almost wasted one of our big TVs here not long ago listening to some of these guys on television, some who, frankly, didn't even do their homework on mispronunciation of names or not knowing the defenses or what have you, and that's what frustrates me more than anything else. Yes, I see that, and then some of the questions I see asked in post-game interviews are totally inane, and I get grossly upset still.
We're talking with Curt Hart this morning, who was the head of Sportstalk here at WSBA for 16 years. He was here for 18 years and one of the mainstays here at WSBA in that 75-year history we're talking about. Feel free to give a call at 1-800-357-0910 and say hello to Curt or ask him a question if you remember a moment. I guess I want to ask you a question. Do you have a moment on Sportstalk that you remember that really stood out as, well, this was the biggest one I ever had?
Oh, well, after state championships, I think we had York Catholic in '86, and then they did it again in 1990. Mm-hmm. But the biggest one ever, obviously, on Sports Talk was when Cal Ripken broke Lou Gehrig's record in September of 1995, because being a baseball historian for years, I honestly felt I would never see that record broken. And here I was, finishing the broadcast, the show in Radio Booth 4 at Camden Yards. Mm-hmm. He ties it in September 5th, 95, and then the next night he breaks the record, and I said, am I believing this? And then I saw that banner unfurled over at the warehouse wall, right. 2131. I said, this is unbelievable. And he, of course, he finished with 2,632 consecutive games played, and it's just an unbelievable mark in Major League Baseball history, and frankly, it's not going to be broken. Not in my lifetime.
You've interviewed a lot of famous sports icons in your lifetime. When you talked about interviews and maybe the proper way to do it, what did you always find when you talked on Sports Talk here? I know a lot of times in other places. What did you always find to be the magic kind of recipe for having a good interview with people?
Trying to make them relax and so forth, and not getting pushy from the standpoint of, why did you do that? What was your thinking on that, and so forth? Those are stupid questions. I always tried to do my homework on some of the people and look inside their interests outside a particular sport. And one of those was Ted Williams. When Ted Williams appeared at the Farm Show Complex in the 1980s, he was an avid fly fisherman. Mm-hmm. And I got with somebody at the state and picked up some topographical fly fishing maps, streams of Pennsylvania, and he went nuts over that. And then that opened the door, and we started talking baseball, his war years, and things like that, and that's what I've always tried to do.
And I think these people are always waiting for you to ask a question or refer to something that maybe no one else has really done, and you were always kind of a master at that, and I really appreciated that, and I learned a lot from you in terms of how you would interview those kinds of people. Want to take a break? Want to come right back? More with Curt Hart this morning. You're welcome to call in. I know Curt would love to hear from you. 1-800-357-0910. This is WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton. Our WSBA Diamond Anniversary flashback interview with Curt Hart, the head of Sports Talk and the voice of sports here at WSBA for a long, long time. We'll be right back with Curt with more right after this. WSBA News Time, 8:24.
Luckman driving the paint, going up left hand, bingo! Oh, what a fast break by Luckman. Out top of the post, Moran for a trifecta is going to throw it up, banks it off the glass for three.
Rule in this situation, Curtis, throw only the easy passes.
They did. Talau laid it up, missed it. Stern stuffed it on the front side and put it in. Right side, Talarico open for a trifecta, came out of the cylinder and put it up and got the roll. The big guy, Brian Amaka. Moran floating to the hoop, got the bucket and got the foul. He hit it.
News Radio 910 WSBA.
Back out, Overlander's going to let it fly. Bullseye for three to start it.
Jeremy Overlander spotted up on the right side, and now they come back in a trap.
They stole it. West York to the hoop. Bingo on the left side. Nate Myers, 5-0 dog.
And that was Curt Hart doing play-by-play back in the 90s. I had the opportunity to do that with him as his color man. And Curt Hart, our WSBA Diamond Anniversary Flashback interview this morning, and he's back with us here on WSBA. But, Curt, you touched a lot of people here at our station and in the area, and one of them is standing here, wanted to say hello to you this morning. His name is Dave Russell. You may remember Dave very well. Dave?
Curt, good morning.
Hey, Dave, how are you?
Fantastic. By the way, I agree with the text on the play-by-play. You guys could have been doing it I just marveled listening to that coming in this morning, just how, you're right on it. It was great. And that brings back a memory that I have with Curt. It was a day where WSBA was doing two playoff games, and we were lacking one color analyst. And it so happened that I was called into duty. Now, I had never done this before, believe it or not. And to make it even more crazy was we were going to the Lehigh Valley, and the team that was involved playing York Catholic was my alma mater, my high school. And I just wanted to say that, Curt, you carried me very well that day. And I realized that, there are a lot of things I enjoy doing in this business. And that was one. I said, maybe I'm a little bit in the pond there, and probably a pond maybe I shouldn't have been in. But it was a fun day with you, and great memories with you as far as producing Saturday Sports Talk and being out on the road and things like that. It was always a great time.
Well, that was very nice. I do appreciate it.
Dave, great having you in this morning. Thanks so much. Dave Russell, of course, now over on Warm 103, but he's with us here this morning, and always good to have Dave stop by. Curt, one of the things that you did, you had some people come on, and one of the great guests that used to have regularly was Pennsylvania Fats. But a lot of people knew or didn't know that Pennsylvania Fats was also Chris Huber, who was our general manager here at the station, and one of the great wits of all time, but also one of the great promoters of all time. Talk a little bit about what he meant to you and your life here as a broadcaster and even otherwise.
I think he's one of the best, if not the best, general manager I've ever had, and I worked radio in 5 states, by the way, and that radio has included doing work at my alma mater at Murray State University, University of Illinois, or Evansville. But Chris knew how to promote, and he knew how important it was to get the people, the voices of WSBA, out in front of the public with the various appearances and so forth. He was always astute on that, and I thought we had the proper advertisers as well, and those people came on board. And from morning to the evening on the shows we had, I think we covered that very well. Chris knew how to do that.
A lot of people don't know that you also are an expert pool shooter. Some people knew it, though, if they listened to Sports Talk, because you would spend a few nights over at Murph Study Hall and other places shooting pool. They also may not know, and I still have your picture hanging in my office there, of Memorial Stadium, one of the greatest pictures I have ever seen taken of Memorial Stadium. And you still take pictures. You are a great photographer today, and a lot of people may not be aware that you did both those items extremely well, and I imagine still do. I know the photography you still do. I don't know about the pool shooting, but there you go.
Well, on the photography, I am now working with Mississippi Audubon Society, Strawberry Plains Audubon Center. I have had numerous images published in this book or that. I do have a website on Flickr. I'm an avid bird photographer, and here in this region, we are in a major migratory path for birds, and we go to the Mississippi Gulf a lot, once a year, sometimes twice. I'm photographing shorebirds all the time, but one reason for going there is the seafood. I find a seafood restaurant, and okay, that's it. I'm done shooting for the day.
So between you and the birds, you got to fight for the seafood, right?
This is true. But that's always been a passion for mine, and Memorial Stadium was great. I have there's a 20 by 30 of that. It still may be hanging in the Babe Ruth Birthplace and Museum in Baltimore when we closed Memorial in 1991. It's always been a love of mine, and I learned that through the campus photographer at my alma mater at Murray State University. It's still with me to this day, and I just love photography and getting out with nature.
One of the saddest days I can ever remember was Memorial Stadium closed. And you captured the picture of the front of Memorial Stadium, which again, it's when people walk into my office, it's the first picture they ever see because you gave that to me as a president, and I've treasured that over all the years. But you remember the day when they played music from the Field of Dreams, and it was heartbreaking.
It was just a great ballpark. There's so many memories there. Football, baseball, what
right.
have you. And then I still see Johnny Unitas and Brooks Robinson there throwing baseballs and football on the sideline. It was just unbelievable. And but my fireworks picture is signed by Brooks Robinson and George Kell.
Wow. Great stuff. Really great stuff. Curt, when you think back to moments in sports talk, you probably try to forget this one because you and I had a chance to do a show one night. We were at the Eastern Sports and Outdoor Show, and you and I met a guy named Bwana Jim. I don't know if you remember this story. It'd be hard to forget.
Vaguely, but okay.
Bwana Jim, while we were at the sports show, would bring different animals over to us. Like he brought over an albino boa constrictor that stretched out, and we were sitting there holding it while we're trying to do the show, and I hated snakes.
Yes.
Well, and what was amazing about Bwana Jim was he also brought a guy over named Fred. Fred was about an 8-foot alligator, and he laid it on our laps. And he's standing there, patting it on the nose, and it opened up its mouth. But I can remember he, shall we say, he relieved himself on you because you looked out and you said, "What's this?" And Bwana Jim started laughing, and Curt is sitting there, and this alligator is, well, relieving himself at that point.
I had a nice pair of slacks on, good grief.
You did?
And what am I going to do? Jump up? This crazy animal peed on me.
We sat there. Well, to go on with that story, the lieutenant governor came down through that night, and they sent their guys out in front, and they said, "Do you want to have a chat with them?" And you said, "Well, I really don't want to talk to Lieutenant Governor." And you went and had a Big Red, which is our drink for Sports Talk. And I said, "I'll talk to the Lieutenant Governor." So the Lieutenant Governor's sitting down, and he's, "Oh, I love this," and going through all the crap, the political crap. And he said, "I love to meet all the Pennsylvanians here at the Eastern Sports and Outdoor Show." And I said, "Well, when I get done here, my partner's going to jump back in there, and he'll take over, and I'll take you over to meet one that maybe you haven't met yet." And so I took the Lieutenant Governor over to Bwana Jim, and I said to Bwana Jim, I said, "Hey, the Lieutenant Governor wants to meet Fred." And Bwana Jim said, "Well, come on inside here." And, of course, his aides are standing there saying, "What are you doing?" And he goes over to the corner, and Fred, the gator, is lying in the corner of this cage, and he yanks Fred out by the tail and takes him over and sits him on the Lieutenant Governor's lap after he goes down on one knee on the floor. And he looks at me like he wanted to kill me, the Lieutenant Governor, and he walked by me after it was all done and said, "Thanks." And I said, "Hey, you wanted to meet all Pennsylvanians, right?" So you and I had a lot of fun out in some of those kind of gigs, didn't we?
I totally forgot that one. Yeah, I do remember that alligator now taking a leak on me for sure.
Oh, man. Yeah, it was a fun time. Hey, we're going to take a quick trip back to some other remembrances here. We'll take a quick trip here first to a break. 8:44 on WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton. Back with more with Curt Hart, our WSBA Diamond Anniversary flashback interview right here on News Radio 910 WSBA.
York Catholic starting out in the 1-3-1 half-court zone. We saw them play the other night. This is the one zone they're really comfortable with.
Stolen by Lau. Outlet pass to Robertson. Robertson had to save it. Tried to get it broken. Now right side. Jeff Lau down low to Stein. Stein turnaround moves. No, got his own board. Lau in the right corner and lost the pass. Didn't see it coming.
That was Curt Hart doing play-by-play basketball in so many games over the years, and I had a chance to do a lot of those with him. It was a true honor, and Curt is our very special guest this morning in our final segment here on our WSBA Diamond Anniversary flashback interview. Speaking of flashbacks, Curt, when you flash back to all the years that you did Sports Talk, what do you come away with in terms of your remembrances?
Oh, geez, a lot through the years. Cal Ripken, as I said earlier, breaking Lou Gehrig's record, Hall of Fame induction ceremonies, and I did get to see Cal go in 2007 with Tony Gwynn, the largest crowd ever, by the way, at Cooperstown, 83,000 plus. Just the fun I had with all of the people, and it didn't go on just on the air, Gary. I had a lot of fun outside, too, with all of the appearances, but a lot of people may not know. I played 14 years in the York County Old Timers Baseball League.
Yep.
I did that on the side. We played games on Wednesday. We started that league in the early 90s with Ken Hersey, who's no longer with us, I'm sorry to say. Steve Holt, Mike Shawley, Mark Green, a bunch of the guys there. You had to be 38 years of age minimum and 2 years removed from any organized baseball. And I had fun with that, with all the guys there, too. But just getting out and meeting all of the people and all of the businesses and so forth there, it was a lot of fun all over the place.
Curt, I don't go anywhere where people don't ask me, whatever happened to Curt Hart? What's he doing now? I want you to tell people what you're doing now, because you've got like a dream job there at the University of Memphis.
I carried on my experience in baseball through the years, and this goes back to my love of the game in high school. I am now teaching at University of Memphis. We are finishing up the 9th year for a course I developed called Baseball in America, which traces the formation of the game from old rounders, cricket, town ball on the streets of New York, through the formation of the American, the National League, the Negro Leagues, racism in the game, integration of the game, all the way through expansion and steroids to this day. And the Hall of Fame selection process is included in all of that as well.
Just sounds like great discussion items. And, you know, when you can weave the history, and you and I talked a long time about how baseball kind of emulates life. It was the one thing that, you know, every day there's something to talk about, because it's the only sport where there's a game going on just about every day during the season.
That's what makes the game great. It's history. And, of course, the 75th anniversary for WSBA now? Am I correct on that?
Absolutely correct.
You know, I mean, the station went on the air there during World War II and the war years. World War II took 3,000 of our minor leaguers and over 300 of our major leaguers off to the war, including Ted Williams, who served twice, and Korea as well. A lot of history of the game in that. Bob Feller was the first major leaguer to enlist for military service in World War II.
What is it about sports that captivates us so in this country?
I think it's how it plays out, not necessarily on the court or the field, but off the field as well, and what kind of examples these people supposedly go on to set. Hopefully good ones. Some, as we know, have not been that well at all through the years, but it's what they go on and give back to society, and I like to look at that as well, and I think a lot of our major leaguers and NBA guys are doing that now.
Curt, final thoughts here. You know, when you look back on WSBA and your time here, and as again, it was a time of, you know, I think you had the #1 sports talk show here in Central Pennsylvania. What will you take away from that as you look back at the various chapters of your life? All
of the experiences that I had with people, the love for the industry, and I loved the game very well, and still do. The industry was good to me and so forth, though I don't like where it's gone in some aspects in the last 20 or 25 years. But it's what I've learned to be with people and so forth, and you move on, and I'm happy at what I'm doing now at University of Memphis. And I still do a little part-time work at radio for some stations in Nashville, but this is what I'm doing now, and dearly love it. Well, you know, the best compliment I think you can give someone is you are better because you had a chance to pass their way, or they had a chance to pass your way. I can certainly say that as having been your partner on a lot of basketball games and even on Sports Talk for a short period of time. But I think I've become a better broadcaster because you passed my way, and I've always appreciated that and will always value that, I know, in my career. Well, I appreciate that very much. It's what we learn from each other. I think that's important, that makes us better in all aspects of life, and I think that's the key. Well, Curt, what are we going to take from it? You are a big part of the 75th anniversary, and so glad you would take the time to be with us this morning. Continue good luck with your course at the University of Memphis, and good luck to you and your family, and always welcome here, and thank you so much for joining us here this morning. Do appreciate it. I had a lot of friends there in WSBA land. I do not miss the snow at all. I miss Camden Yards. I miss Camden Yards more than anything else, but I don't miss the snow. Well, we don't get much here at all. You have to come back up. We'll sneak into a game together sometime, my friend. Let's do it. Thank you so much. And one final time. Can I hear a bingo one final time? Bingo!
Okay. Curt Hart, Sports Talk, play-by-play extraordinaire, and one of the best that ever has been in this business. And with us here this morning, Curt, be safe, my friend.
You take care, Gary.
Take care.
All the best to everyone.
You too. WSBA Diamond Anniversary Flashback interview with Curt Hart. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. We'll take a break. We'll come right back for some final thoughts here on WSBA. It's 8:54.
26 seconds on the clock with an official timeout right here. Let's take one here. You're listening to Championship High School Basketball on News Talk 910 WSBA.
News Radio 910 WSBA.
I had a great time. I'll tell you what, I started my radio back in 1987 with another station in Lancaster, and then I was working for another station in Harrisburg and also WSBA all at the same time while I was teaching. But I got to tell you, when I worked with Curt Hart, he was as good a play-by-play man as you ever worked with, and things just clicked, and we had a great time. I learned a lot from him, and it was great having him on this morning. Really appreciate that. And again, working with him on Sports Talk helped me to get started in the radio business as far as I had my own little show, but it was just an hour show on Saturday mornings when I got started in 95, and Curt taught me a lot. I thought it would be good to have a quote today that comes kind of from the world of sports and talks a little bit about the world of competition. And it goes like this: why do I succeed? I succeed because I'm willing to do the things you are not. I will fight against the odds. I will sacrifice. I am not shackled by fear, insecurity, or doubt. I feel those emotions, drink them in, and then swallow them away to the blackness of hell. I am motivated by accomplishment, not pride. Pride consumes the weak, kills their heart from within. If I fall, I will get up. If I am beaten, I will return. I will never stop getting better. I will never give up, ever. That is why I succeed. That can apply to life very, very well. Thank you so much for joining us today here on WSBA. We're 2 days away from the inaugural, and we continue to get ready for that tomorrow as Curt Smith joins us. Curt Smith is not only a great baseball writer, he's a former speechwriter for George H.W. Bush. He'll be with us at 7:05. At 7:35, Congressman Scott Perry joins us. He'll be there on Friday. And we'll take your calls tomorrow here on WSBA Morning News with Gary Sutton. Thanks for joining us today. We'll see you at 9 tomorrow, 6 tomorrow here on WSBA. It's 9 o'clock.
From the JackGiambalvo.com studios, celebrating our diamond anniversary. News Radio 910 WSBA York, WSOX HD2 Redline.